There's a headless cross marking the centre of the village of Grimeford, nowadays known as Anderton. Said cross is often referred to as the Headless Cross because it doesn't have a head on it. Obvious really. The locals also often refer to it as the Headless Boggart, probably because it comes in handy as a makeshift bog when you're staggering home from the nearby Millstone pub with a full bladder. It stands, or more accurately it kneels, next to the stocks opposite the misnamed, on Ordnance Survey maps at any rate, Headless Cross Cottage. It was raining when we tried to film it. We had to go back when it wasn't. There was also some hoo-ha Henry in a four-wheel drive. It's like driving round the Andes off-road in Lancashire, it really is, Rupert, I'm telling you. Pipping at us angrily because 25 feet apparently wasn't enough space to squeeze his head through. The Headless Cross dates from circa the 10th century. It might once have marked the site of an ancient chapel, but the cross itself has been on its travels since. It was broken in half for reasons never explained in the 1850s, the bottom bit ending up in nearby Horwich, while the top bit was either recycled in some building or other in Chorley, as you do, or ended up in the Harris Museum, depending on which website you read. The lower portion was returned to its current position when Lord Leverhulme died. No, we don't know why either, it just was. It's haunted as well. During the Reformation, the local chaplain, allegedly, was nicking off with the church's silverware down a secret tunnel when it collapsed. Now his ghost hangs around the Headless Cross, presumably because it's got nothing better to do. Another phantom that lurks near the Headless Cross is that of Joe Hill, the old Anderton gamekeeper. He was murdered. His niece found the corpse when she was taking him his supper, and saw 3 transvestites running away from the cottage wearing milkmaids' bonnets to disguise their faces. They were never caught. Joe is still looking for them, it seems. What's this got to do with Brindle, you're probably asking? To be honest, I've no idea. It's just old and interesting and full of nonsensical folklore, so we thought we'd throw it in at the start of this film. Moving quickly onwards then. You'd probably never even heard of Brindle before you found this film. It's just an afterthought on even the largest scale Ordnance Survey maps. However, it's a remarkably ancient and affluent village for all its obscurity. The average resident here bringing in a 33% higher income than the national average, or a 33,000% income higher than mine, which just goes to show that money doesn't necessarily buy your taste. Where there's old money, there's generally old architecture, and Brindle's got an extremely ancient church, St James's, dating back to at least 1190, when its vicar was called Uchtred, which is a Saxon name meaning advice, fitting for a vicar really, or a financial advisor. The oldest part of the church, because churches around this neck of the woods tend to get rebuilt on a regular basis, is the tower with its gargoyles. Proper gargoyles at that, with stone mouths that vomit rainwater rather than just carved grotesques. The tower was erected circa 1500. However, it's the graveyard accessories that really reek of age. There's something a bit sinister about them, in particular the 3 stone slabs and 2 Norse cross bases sheltered behind the rear wall. There's a stone coffin too, medieval probably, just around the corner, fortunately unoccupied. Unlike the similar stone coffin at Kirkham Church, this one hasn't been misidentified and used as a plant pot. Yet. Returning to the upright slabs, they have crude, by which I mean simplistic, rather than phallic, crosses carved into them. It's reckoned they're medieval grave coverings. What they're doing up against the wall is anybody's guess. Between said slabs are 2 ancient cross bases, most likely Norse, discovered by Canon Jacques, rector of Brindle, in 1909. One in Water Street on the corner of High Cop Lane, the other on Sandy Lane. I don't know Brindle, but on the 1,000,000 to 1 chance against that one of the residents is watching this, I thought I'd throw that information in. If you triangulate from the original positions of these cross bases, you'll find the keel to which they were attached, which, as you've probably gathered, is where the church now stands. Keel crosses, along with the keels themselves, both dating from the 6th century, generally stood on Roman roads, and Pippin Street seems like the perfect candidate for just such a highway. At least, its name does. More perplexing are the two cross bases that hold up the sundials on either side of St James's Church. They could be medieval, they could be Saxon, it's difficult to date objects made of stone. Whatever age they are, they're distinctly odd. Wherever you find old money, you generally find lots of other people who don't feature largely in sycophantic history books because they live in abject poverty, beavering away behind the scenes to keep the village's facade immaculate. Brindle was no exception. It had a workhouse where it stored most of its impoverished residents. One of the most brutal workhouses anywhere in Lancashire, by all accounts. It was set up in a converted mass house near the top at Phil. That's what it's called, that's not just us trying to be clever. Confiscated by the Gerard family in 1717. By 1745, the workhouse had become a general receptacle for the pauper lunatics, the idle, and the refractory poor, accepting the undernourished from 15 parishes. For a fee, of course, it costs to keep these streets beggars free. The workhouse soon gained a reputation for taking in those cases that nobody else would touch with a barge pole. By 1880, the number of townships dumping their toxic waste there had risen to 80. At its peak, Brindle Workhouse numbered between 200 and 300 paupers in harsh and wretched conditions. Understandably, when the newspapers finally got hold of the story, there was a bit of an uproar. Inmates reportedly being imprisoned by leglocks to prevent their escape over the wall. Stories of inmates' deaths, including one resident being beaten to death by an irritated warden, eventually led to the workhouse being closed during the Christmas of 1871 festivities. The inmates were transferred to the new workhouse in Chorley, so it probably wasn't much of a Christmas celebration for them. Eventually, the building was demolished and the stone sold off, because you still got to turn a profit, even after the slaves had been banished. There's a plaque somewhere, but we couldn't find it, probably because rich people seldom like others to know where their wealth originated. On which cheerful note, it's time to bugger off. Click like, subscribe or something, and don't forget to join us again for the next unashamedly socialist episode of Lancashire Footnotes.